Yo, yes, what is up? Moxsy on Wonderlands video, and today we're going over the most recent hotfix for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. We've got Clawbringer buffs, weapon buffs, and some nerfs as well. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let's get right into it. So to start this hotfix off, we have a new weekly event. This is an in-game event called Supreme Savings, and vending machines and SDUs are half price this week, along with missions items having a higher chance at being the item of the day. This is an awesome event. I personally have not maxed out my bank SDU yet, so those are going to be half price, as well as mission items appearing in vending machines more and being way cheaper. Next up, there's a new featured run, which will feature LeChance and the Blue Hat Monstrosity, which will each have a higher chance of dropping their dedicated drops, and then we get into the real changes. So to start us off, they fixed Smart Armor. Smart Armor was occasionally being lost when you would transition through maps or on Save Your Soul. You would lose your crit chance and your crit damage, and now it's going to be fixed, which is perfect for Stabbomancers. This armor works really well with From the Shadows, and in addition to that, Stabbomancer's getting buffs, and Clawbringer's getting buffs as well. They said that the Stabbomancer and Clawbringer were not matching up to their damage expectations for higher chaos tiers, so they're releasing some changes now and some changes further or later down the road based on community feedback, and they're continuing to monitor these underperforming classes. So they buffed Stabbomancer's Capstone Ethereal Blade to now deal 150% of the Fate Maker's melee weapon instead of 100%. So a 50% damage increase for Stabbomancer's Capstone, and Ghostblade weapon damage, the action skill, is now getting a buff by 10%. Next up, Clawbringer buffs. For Clawbringer, first off, they're buffing Awe. Awe's critical hit chance is now 13% per point instead of 11%. Awe's critical hit damage is 7% per point instead of 5%. So these are per point, so you'll net out more than their original 2%, as it being a 3-point skill. For example, this 13% per point being 2% will now be a 6% critical hit chance increase. Just giving you breaking that down. Dragon Aura elemental damage is now 5% instead of 4%, so that'll net out at around 25% increased elemental damage instead of the 20%. Oath of Thunder deals 6% bonus melee damage per point instead of 5%, and Firebolt gun damage is now 10% per point instead of 8%. Firebolt is a 1 out of 1, so that's only a 2% gun damage increase for Clawbringer. These changes are good. These are all good changes. I'm not sure if these changes will be enough to make Clawbringer as viable as some of the other endgame classes, but really good changes there. Particularly Dragon Aura Elemental and Oath of Thunder and Awe. Very nice changes there. Next up, they're changing or nerfing the Warped Paradigm. They said that they found that the Warp Paradigm was increasing damage outside of its expected range that we balanced it for. We've adjusted it down slightly to make sure it wasn't creeping too far out of those expectations. The Warp Paradigm was basically the best class mod for every build, and I'm actually very glad that they're adjusting it. They're adjusting the Warp Paradigm stat conversion from 50% to 35%. This is still going to be a top tier class mod. It's still going to give you a ton of extra damage via melee or spells or ability based off of your main stat. So it's still going to be a good choice, but you'll now have more options besides the Warp Paradigm just being the best. And this was also part of the reason Spell Shot was so good, is because Spell Shot, you could just go full spell damage and then convert it to any other thing, ability, or melee. So Warp Paradigm change is really good there. Next up, we have buffs to shotguns, and this is kind of crazy. They're increasing all Torg shotgun damage by 17.6%. I'm going to be honest, I think Torg shotguns are currently the strongest weapon in the game. I use them on Spore Explosion. They're disgusting. The ×18 body rockers are, in my opinion, the strongest weapon in the game. So the fact that they just got a buff is kind of nuts. We'll take those. The Hawkins Wrath, which is a fire shotgun, got its fire rate increased by 75%. And its damage scaling by 10%. So you should be able to fire the Hawkins Wrath way faster now. Next up, the Sword Explosion got some buffs. The Sword Explosion now spawns with at least one foregrip part. This will not affect current versions of the weapon. So you might need to farm some new Sword Explosions. They're increasing its projectile speed by 150%, its fire rate by 194%, and its damage scaling by 14%. You're going to be able to fire the Sword Explosion very quickly. So that's going to be a huge change to how the weapon feels, giving it more projectile speed, more fire rate, and more damage scaling, and guaranteed spawning with a foregrip part. Next up, the Rain of Arrows. They adjusted the Rain of Arrows area damage tick time from 0.2 seconds to 0.25 seconds. They adjusted its tick time from 0.2 seconds to 0.25. I guess that's a little bit of a nerf to the Rain of Arrows. Just a small one. I think it'll proc damage slightly slower. And then the Crossblade. Ooh, this is a good one. The Crossblade, the elemental effect chance was very low for how many projectiles getting fired per shot. Increased Crossblade's weapon status effect chance by 100%. The Crossblade will now always have a chance to apply its damage over time. That's an awesome change. I was already using the Crossblade as a status effect weapon. They're increasing its status effect chance by 100%, basically guaranteeing dots from the Crossblade. This will make it an amazing dot weapon, and I'm actually super excited to give that a go because I'm working on a gun dot build. And then lastly, the Divergence damage scaling was increased by 20%. This is the DLC dice shotgun. Good change there. I thought this thing was a little underpowered, and damage scaling there. Guys, that is gonna do it for this week's hotfix. We've got some big buffs to the Stabbomancer, some nice buffs to Clawbringer, some adjustments to the Warp Paradigm, shotgun buffs for a lot of shotguns. I'm really keen on checking out the Crossblade and the Sword Explosion now. Torg weapons are even better. Also, Chum should be leveling up to level 3 this week, and we've got Supreme Savings with Vending Machine SDU costs decreased. Big week. Really good hotfix. Guys, I will catch y'all in the next one. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts down below on the hotfix and what you want to see for future hotfixes. I'll catch y'all in the next one, guys. Take care. Peace. I was putting